of our regular press conference. I am Ryan Ponce Pacpaco. Let's get started by introducing our guest for today. We're honored to welcome House Deputy Majority Leader and Mandaluyong City Representative Neptali Boyat M. Gonzales II, House Committee on Agriculture and Food and Quezon 1st District Representative Wilfredo Mark M. Enberga, Assistant Majority Leader and Taguig 2nd District Representative Amparo Maria J. Zamora o si Mampami, and One Rider Party List Representative Rods L. Gutierrez. Before we open the floor for media questions, I invite our speakers to share their short opening remarks. Mampami.
Good morning, everyone. We're here today to give you updates on what's happening sa Committee on of the Whole na last day na today, and we're also ready to answer any questions our friends from the media have. Thank you.
Yes, Kong Mark.
Yes, good morning. Today, I am here to also apprise everyone on the developments on the Committee on Agriculture and Food. So just for everyone's information, may I invite everyone tomorrow that we will be conducting our motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation, particular to the issue on NFA. So I hope that we see you also tomorrow. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. We're here to answer. We're excited to have you here, media friends. We're here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation for the past 2 weeks. Pangalawa ko na to, kaya nag-level up na ako talaga. Maraming salamat sa inyo talaga.
Thank you, sirs and ma'am. For the first question, RG Cruz from ABS-CBN.
Good morning, Your Honors. For Kong Boyet, what can we expect today and next week insofar as RBH 7 is concerned? And masusunod ba sa tingin nyo yung timeline of third reading by before the break?
Well, as kagabi, before we suspended the Committee of the Whole, and in-announce ko na what's going to happen today, and I made, I manifested that while we have already exhaustively and extensively discussed all possible issues concerning RBH 7, today, today, we will still hear the resource speakers that who were invited before but were unable to attend. In fact, kanina nandun si former Senator Gringo Hunansan, and then si former Congressman and Secretary of Finance Margarito Teves. So yun, and then we will recognize members who would like to interpolate them, and hopefully it will be limited to matters, new matters to be shared by the resource speaker this morning. But I already made representation even with the minority and Congressman Ed Salagman. By 2 o'clock, we will terminate the interpellation and move to approval of the RBH 7. And once approved, then we will task the Secretariat to prepare a committee report. We will perhaps have a short break to distribute the same, and once we resume, then we will attempt to approve the committee report so that it will be reported out for a second reading next week. I want the Committee of the Whole to finish this before the session resumes, mamayang 4 o'clock. I don't want to have the Committee of the Whole continue to with each deliberation even after the adjournment of the session. Baka kasi walang quorum mahirapan ako. So I would rather have it before the beginning of the session, so that more or less I will be assured of having a quorum, which I will need to have it, the committee report approved by the Committee of the Whole. So mamayang hapon sa Committee of the Whole. Tapos to, promise. Next week, I do not know. Kasi ano pa yan eh. Although, I think 3 days is, okay na yung 3 days. Because ang Monday, based on the timeline that was given shared with me, next 11, 12, 13 will be the second reading, and mas mabilis ang second reading, because it will be limited to interpellation of the members, unlike in the committee level. Kaya tumatagal yan because may direct questions to the resource speakers. But when we go on second reading, wala nang ang tinatanong na lang is the sponsor. Who's going to sponsor it, and then any questions must be addressed to the sponsor, who should answer all the interpellating questions to be done by any of the members. And ako my guess by Wednesday, ma-approve to by second reading by Wednesday next week.
Okay. Sir, my next question. As chairman of the Committee on the West Philippine Sea, are you content with just filing a diplomatic protest, or do you see any more stronger actions that the government can take to assert the Philippines' rights over our waters, especially after the incidents in Benham Rice?
Yeah. But in the meantime, kasi diplomatic protest is all we can do. During the hearing conducted by the Special Committee in West Philippine Sea, be it executive meeting or a public hearing, talaga namang we were informed that ilan na ang na-file natin diplomatic protest. And ang tingin natin, wala nangyayari because NR ang China, no response. But what is the importance of having a diplomatic protest, even though apparently hindi pinapansin? Kasi baka ang sa atin parang nag-give up na tayo dahil hindi naman tayo pinapansin, so tigil na lang natin. But the importance is it's a continuing show of our that we have not surrendered our stand in the West Philippines. Mind you, not claim, because insofar as we are concerned, that's ours. That's our statement. That's ours, and it helps other countries who are also interested in the region because of their yung transport ng kanilang mga commercial vehicle, commercial ships sila transporting their goods from their countries to any country na dumadaan diyan sa West Philippine Sea. And they are also nakakatulong sa kanila na to help us in condemning China, and ang maganda ngayon, meron ng mga video na ipapakita, kasi unlike before, pag inire-report mo lang walang visual, sabihin water cannon, baka hindi nila alam. People do not realize the kind of yung strength ng water cannon na ginagamit. Baka kala nila garden hose lang yung ginagamit. But now, nakikita na malakas, tapos nakikita na talagang very dangerous sa mga maneuvers, binabangga, and nakakatulong to in mga countries in helping us. Kaya marami na ngayong mga pumapasok ng mga security arrangement with our country. Australia, the president is there. Ang Japan show na interest, and other European countries. As I've said, kasi pinoprotektahan din nila yung yung interest nila in that interest of their navigation in that area.
Excuse me. Kong Rods, Mampami, Kong Mark, do you have any remarks to share? on the same questions.
Siguro mahalaga din kung Tito Boyet na isaad natin na hindi tayo dapat tumigil kahit anong pambubuli sa atin ng China, na hindi tayo dapat tumigil sa ating mga weekly resupply missions. Kasi pag tumigil tayo dyan, meaning lang nun, give up na natin yung ating pagmamayari at hindi tayo dapat tumigil doon. Kahit anong pambubuli nila sa atin, we should stand up against bullies, 'di ba? 'Yun ang mahalaga, na hindi natin itigil kahit anong pananakit nila sa atin.
Actually, di naman tumitigil ang pag-supply. But sinasabi rin naman sa amin ng National Task Force on West Philippine Sea what they're doing. But unfortunately, hindi namin pwede i-reveal kung ano ginagawa nila ron. Dahil kasi it was shared to the committee during an executive session. But walang plano ang gobyerno na itigil ang pag-supply ng ating mga presence ng mga soldiers natin o mga navy na doon.
As a member of the Special Committee of the West Philippine Sea under Chairman Gonzales, I can vouch for that. Fortunately, we cannot divulge information, but we can assure our people that the brave men and women of the Philippine Armed Forces are there, and they're continuing to exert their efforts, and we will continue to support them. As to the question of the diplomatic protest being the pinnacle of our response, I would have to say that perhaps we should understand that the Philippine President, as the chief architect of foreign policy, has the final say on what we can and cannot do. But on the part of the legislative, you can be assured that we are doing our part. As far as I understand, we will soon be passing the Maritime Zones law. So this is just to, although it's not necessary, but we do believe in the legislative that we have both domestic law, such as the Constitution, and now the Maritime Zones law behind us, as supported by international law, as we've seen there in the UNCLOS and the support of our arbitral ruling. So we will continue to exert efforts here throughout the mandate that we have, but that we leave it, of course, to the President on how he would go about specific incidents such as these.
Well, just briefly, I think much has also been said. But of course, I thank the President for having a very determined stance. I think he made a very clear position on this matter, that we will not give up anything for this. So we're thankful to the Committee on the West Philippine Sea. I know very well that they're handling this very well, and I hope everyone would understand the sensitivity of the matter. That's why maraming hindi pwedeng i-divulge din po rito. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Isa Bendaño from GMA DCWB.
Lastly na lang,
Okay.
if you will recall, last budget, nagkaroon ng issue dyan ng di ba, yung nag-realign, natanggal yung mga confidential ng other agencies of the government. At one ginawa ng House is to realign it to particularly to the needs of yung mga West Philippine Sea na task force na doon, kung ano kailangan. What I'm saying is, na ngayon, we will now take up the budget of 2025. No? Sooner or later, there's going to be a budget call. Budget call ng DBM, magba-budget call na yan. Siguro, by this time, alam naman ang kailangan alam naman ang kailangan ng gobyerno. Ano ang kailangan natin doon sa West Philippine Sea? Na hindi lang pwedeng, kailangan nila ng barko, kailangan nila ng Coast Guard, kailangan nila ng mga helicopter, etc. Whatever it is. Siguro it's about time na when we do the budget, the national government should not only, kasama na sa major concern niya, not only education, not only health, but also yung yung protection of what is supposed to be ours. Kasi kung wala tayong, yung talagang the real presence natin doon by having mas marami mga barko, will somehow makaka-prevent ng mga bullying natin. But kung we will not give them the ample ships na kailangan nila, whatever, then mahihirapan talaga sila. Yun ang palagi naman nirereklamo ng Coast Guard, ang mga barko nila maliliit, yung pag-supply nila ng mga maliliit, ang bagal ng takbo. Kaya it's about time that that the government should also recalibrate yung pag ano ng pondo to include also yung mga kailangan natin to protect yung ating West Philippine Sea.
Thank you. Isa, go ahead.
Good morning po mga congressmen. Kay Kong Mark Enverga po, nabanggit nyo kanina na bukas na po yung investigation, motu proper inquiry ng inyo pong committee. First question po, meron po bang particular na instruction si House Speaker Martin Romualdez po, particular dito sa issue nga po ng NFA bigas scam? And second question, kasi ilang linggo na rin pong binabanggit ni na Senators Cynthia Villar and J.V. Ejercito na hindi daw po makausad sa bicameral Conference Committee yung anti-agri-smuggling bill dahil daw po dinidedma ng mga kongresista. Thank you po.
Thank you, Isa, for that question. So first and foremost, siguro unahin ko na yung sa anti-agri-smuggling because this was a question posted last week. As soon as we returned, I just want to give everyone a brief background. The version of the House was amendatory to the existing anti-agricultural smuggling law. The Senate's version is a complete repeal, so rewriting the law. So there was a first impasse dito. So sino yung magiging working draft? So, but just to let everyone know, we have been in constant communication with the staff of the good Senator Villar all throughout. So we also conducted a pre-BICAM here so that for an efficient BICAM, we already posted our concerns with the proposed Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act. So it took about 2 weeks for us to wrap up. So I hope that the staff should, I guess, inform the good senator that we have been in constant communication with their office since about the start of mid-January. And for tomorrow's hearing, of course, in light of the alleged misdisposition, of course, the Speaker has always tasked the committee to probe anything. Wala pong sasantuhin, walang sisinuhin. Kaya nga po, automatic na po sa amin, at nabanggit nga po niya, make this a priority. In fact, we filed a resolution last week, Tuesday. But unfortunately, due to the gravity of work here in Congress, hindi po na-refer sa amin yet. That's why he instructed us to do it in a motu proprio manner. So, yun lang. Thank you, Isa.
Thank you po.
Thank you. Billy Vegas from Abante Politico for the next question.
Magandang umaga po. Hingi lang po ng insight. Lumalabas kasi doon sa mga hearing nyo, parang kahit na may sinabi na ng presidente na favor siya sa economic chacha, pero yung DepEd ayaw pa rin. Parang ino-oppose nila. Parang sila lang yung agency na nag-stand to oppose. Insights lang po.
Well, we respect their position. In the same manner na lahat yan, pros and cons, we respect. The essence of the lang naman, yung mga yung mga insight of the resource speakers are meant for the congressman in making its final decision on how to vote on the matter. As to whether or not ang DepEd oppose it or yung some other people opposes it, lang yun, ganun talaga. At the end of the day, basta magbobotohan dyan, whether it is their stance were able to influence the congressman, will be revealed later in the outcome of the voting. But as I've said, we respect kung anong position ng DepEd yan. Yun.
In addition to that lang po siguro, I wouldn't know how particular to interpret, with finality yung sinabi nung resource person ng DepEd. But if I recall correctly, under the interpellation of Congresswoman Kimbo, there were actually some admissions by the resource person that there might be just differences in the understanding of the provision. But what I can say from my personal understanding of how the hearings proceeded, we do understand that there would be apprehensions on the part of DepEd on how it would play out po, no? Kasi the question talaga po nila that we saw was that dun sa control and curriculum and in relation to the mandate of DepEd. But we have to remember po, no, that the mandate of DepEd only flows from law and from the Constitution. So the question that they presented before us na paano na po yung curriculum, paano yung mga existing laws namin, that it's the effect of the Constitution po, no? So if Congress as a whole, together with the Senate, decides to change it, then mag-adjust naman po yung DepEd. And there was that admission na it's not impossible. Kasi nga po, with the caveat na unless otherwise provided by law, there will be further regular legislation to set out the parameters, the limits, kung anong mangyayari po dito sa DepEd. And of course, they will follow, which includes the control and mandate over curriculum and such. Yun lang po.
Ginagalang natin yung opinion ng resource person galing sa DepEd nung isang araw. Although hindi ako nag-agree kasi medyo parang kumukontra ata. Sa distrito ko mismo, napakaraming international schools. I hail from the 2nd District of Taguig, kung nasaan po ang BGC. At napakarami naman pong international schools doon. Sinasabi nila na those schools exist because of legislation. So what makes these foreign institutions any different? Parang kontra ata. Pero ginagalang natin yung opinion nila and para yun sa further na pagninilay ng mga congressman na sa dulo naman kami din naman po ang boboto. Pero naniniwala po ako na kung nag-exist naman ngayon ang mga international schools dito at matagal na po silang nag-exist, wala naman pong masama na pumasok pa ang mga international, ng mga iba pang international schools. Naging issue kahapon ng mga resource persons yung mawawala daw yung sense of nationalism natin. Pero makikita natin sa napakaraming bansa tulad ng Singapore, marami pong mga international schools na nasa Singapore. Yung sikat po na school na INSEAD, nasa Singapore po yun. Pero parang hindi naman nawawala yung pagmamahal nila sa bansa nila. In fact, alam natin ang Singapore, Kong Mark, talagang known sila na matatag ang kanilang paghanga at pagtingin sa kanilang bansa. So sa tingin ko, marami namang safeguards against yung mga fears ng ating resource persons kahapon. Salamat po.
Okay,
Sorry, just one more in addition po.
Go ahead,
Kasi
sir.
it was mentioned by Kong Pami, and I agree actually, it came to mind nga yung sinasabi doon sa international schools. If we recall during the hearing po, no, naging question po talaga yun when it comes to international schools and even playing field. And lumuwas po doon, hindi masagot nga ng DepEd po, no, kung ano ba talaga yung ownership ng British School of Manila, Everest, and other schools na na-mention ni Stella Kimbo, ni Congresswoman Kimbo. So it brings to light the question po, no, ang nakikita po namin, although we understand the stand of DepEd, pero napaka-limited. Actually, kahit sa testimony po nila, sinabi nila, ang DepEd lang po makakasagot doon lang sa basic education. Hindi po nila may sasagot yung sa tertiary kasi sa CHED na daw po yun. Pero if we want to take into consideration, we cannot decide on Chacha based on dito lang tayo magfo-focus. Kasi if we look at the whole amendment that is being proposed, we're talking about, although basic na banggit doon, it has an effect on tertiary. It has an effect on international schools. So, as much as we understand and we respect the position of DepEd as concerning their mandate sa basic education, we have to consider yung whole po, no? So, their sole opinion, dun nga pa lang sa international schools, cannot give us a final conclusion, then we must look to the other resource persons. Yun lang po siguro, in addition lang po sa sinabi ni Kong Pami. Thank you.
Thank you. Ihabol ko lang phone-in question from Red Mendoza from Manila Times. Do you think it is reflective po ng posisyon ni BP Sara sa naging stance ng DepEd sa economic provisions ng Chacha? Anybody po?
On that question po, no, we're not mind readers. We cannot say if this is actually the stance of a reflection or a projection of the opinion of the good secretary. However, we must understand, ako personally, the fact that they sent a USEC for legal seems to show that this is more of a legal opinion. I'm not sure yet if this is a politically informed or a political view of the department, but the fact that legal siya and then it was very technical in nature concerning only the basic mandate would tell me this is a very legalistic view of the opinion. I guess that's all that I would say on that matter po.
Ako lang, baka naman, I don't know if, perhaps my understanding is also wrong, Baka mali din ang pagkakaintindi ng, ng DepEd. Because if you're going to analyze itong amendment sa education, di ba nauna yung basic? You have to recall that wala naman dati ang education nun basic education lahat yan but after the na-separate na ang elementary high school at nagkaroon na ng higher ed, kaya nga nagkaroon iniba na DepEd na saka ANCHED so when the constitution speaks of education at that time it refers to the entire basic and tertiary But because there is already a basic which is handled by DepEd and tertiary which is handled by CHED. I think kung bakit nilagay doon yung basic is to distinguish the basic education from the tertiary. If you're going to analyze the proposed amendment, three sentences lang naman yan Basic education, unless owned by being operated by religious, etc., di ba? Doon yung limitation Filipino sa 60%, 60-40 Filipino, Period. Pero hindi pa kasama sa amendment na. Continuing Etong second sentence would be applicable to the first sentence na nakalagay. But Congress may increase inaalaw pa nga ang Congress to increase yung ownership of the Filipino instead of 60-40 pwedeng gawin nakalagay pagdating sa tertiary yun ang ibang usapan na yun tertiary talagang can be 100% if authorized by law later kaya ako baka mali ang pagkakaintindi lang ng DepEd in fact pinoprotektahan ako ang tingin ko the reason why nilagay ang basic before the word education is to separate it or distinguish it from the tertiary education which is all under CHED kaya si Chairman Popoy de Vera immediately in support wala kaya magkaiba ang DepEd saka magkaiba ang tertiary but they refer both to education which before walang distinction ngayon may distinction
Thank you. Tina Panganiban Perez from GMA 7.
For Kong Boyet lang po, pahabol lang po ng office about WPS. Sabi po ni Senator Tolentino, ready na raw po ang Senate mag-BICAM on the Maritime Zone bill kung hindi raw i-adapt ng House yung version nila. And yung pangbabatikos daw ng China doon sa bill, shows na medyo nababahala sila doon sa panukala. Maritime Zone.
Handa na sila?
Handa na raw sila mag-BICAM kung hindi raw i-adapt ng House.
Buti naman handa na sila. No. Buti naman handa na sila. You know why? Kasi majority leader ako and I'm talking about the 15th and the 16th Congress. Talaga yan ang mga kailangan natin. Yan ang palagi sinasabi. Even the West Philippine Sea ng task force, ano sinasabi sa amin? Kailangan adoption of the Maritime Zone Bill. kailangan yung Archipelagic Sea Lane Bill. Lahat yan, naipasa na namin lahat yun noon eh. But for one reason or the other, doon sa Senate, hindi, walang nangyayari. Now, if sinasabi ng brad namin, brad namin ni si Tolentino, Francis Tolentino, nahanda na sila dahil well and good. That's a welcome, that's a welcome news because after almost more than a decade, talagang kailangan ipasa natin talaga yan.
Thank you, sir. Elson Quezmorio from Manila Bulletin for the next question.
Good morning po, Kongs. This for everyone po. Si Senator Francis Tolentino po, filed na po yung Senate Resolution 941 seeking to adopt po yung so-called Bernas Rule to serve as the Senate's rule po for constitutional amendments po. I think this is a so-called fourth mode. What do you think pa? What can you say about this po? And do you think this can expedite the Chacha process in general po?
First of all, there's no such thing as fourth mode. Wala yan, walang fourth mode. Sabi nga, there are only 3 modes, di ba, under the Constitution. The first mode is Congress, members of Congress by a vote of 3/4 of all its members. That's the first mode. Second mode, CONCON. Either we adopt a bill calling on the CONCON by 2/3 vote or by a majority vote submit the issue to the people of calling a CONCON. And the third is people's initiative. So nasaan kami? Nandun kami sa first mode. Nandun kami sa first mode. The first mode, which is Congress may a vote of 3/4 of all its members. Ang dyan ang isang magandang nag-explain yan si dating former Justice si Tony Carpio. Sabi niya, when the Constitution provides Congress by a vote of 3/4 of all its members, Congress is a bicameral body. It refers both to the House and the Senate. But there is no mandate that both houses of Congress should sit jointly assembled. Kasi wala nang nakalagay ngayon sa sa Constitution ngayon yan eh. It's in the 1935 Constitution that requires both houses of Congress to jointly assembled. Ngayon wala na. Kaya ang sabi niya, Congress by a 3/4 vote, how can Congress do that? Either to in a joint assembly or to have a separate proceedings like what we are doing right now. Separate, and then kailangan pareho namin parehong ipasa. We have to the House must approve it by 3/4 vote of the members of the House, and then the Senate might also do that. Kasi kung walang ganon, then there's no proposed amendment to speak of. So yun. We are in the first mode. Walang fourth mode. Ang Senate yata nag-adapt ng I don't know. Nagsabi lang sa akin recently nag-adapt sila ng rule nila on how to go about processing yung RB 86 nila, no? Kasi may dalawa akong senador na nakausap. Sabi ko sa kanila, ang kaibahan ng House, meron kami under our rules eh. Under our rules, nakalagay dyan noon pa, matagal na, first termer pa lang ako, nadyan na. It's not a new thing. It's not hindi lang nangyari yan. Nakalagay doon, that Congress, kung ano nakalagay sa Constitution, Congress may by a vote of 3/4 of all its members, pero pwede namin gawin by a resolution. Pero we also put as a limitation on ourselves that if we do that, then it has to be processed in the same manner as a bill. Hindi bill, kasi kuminsan sinasabi ng mga makabayan, but bill to. Hindi ito bill. It's a resolution. Ang ginagawa lang namin is the process of adopting a bill, meaning it requires first reading, second reading, and third reading, and then papadala sa Senate. Yun. Kaya we are in the first mode.
In addition to that lang po, no, very well explained naman po by DML Gonzales. Right off the bat, we're going to have to say po na, just to stress po, no, there is no fourth mode. Very specific in Constitution. I agree with DML Gonzales. There is no fourth mode. We are still exercising the first mode by Constituent Assembly, exercising as Congress constituent powers. The question lang po, no, of whether or not we make our own rules or not, because there were two ways to go about it po, no. If we were to push through with this, na wala palang rules po yung Senate, and the Congress has rules of the House, then it would be up to the Supreme Court to decide whether the original interpretation, the supposedly traditionalist na jointly assembled but separately voting, as compared to naman yung if it will be allowed as like the interpretation dun sa martial law. When Congress votes on martial law, it will be jointly assembled and jointly voting. So it's unfair to say naman po na walang instance na may jointly voting. So that's why if they did not come up with their own rules, it's up to the Supreme Court because it can go either way. But itong tinatawag na fourth mode po, no, the Bernas Doctrine. The Bernas Doctrine says kasi po that the Constituent Assembly on the first mode will be exercised according to the rules of the House and the Senate. Yung House, as far as I understood, we have that po eh. May Rule 21 po kami dito sa House, which is as explained by DML Gonzales. Dun po yun sa passing a resolution which follows the procedure of a bill. The Senate does not have that counterpart. So ngayon pa lang po magkakaroon sila ng counterpart. Yung ginagawa po nilang RBH 6, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I understand, it was ad hoc. So kumbaga for this purpose only, gumawa sila ng committee in a way to go about it. But to answer the question, it is a welcome development po. Although we would have hoped that it would have happened earlier, pero nonetheless, better late than never. So we welcome the development in the Senate that they are now adopting rules to accommodate what their version for exercising the first mode of amending the Constitution. Yun na po.
Any other comment po? Wala na po. Thank you.
Thank you. Haji Camino from Brigada News for his question.
Good morning po mga kongs. Sundan ko lang po yung tanong kanina ni Ms. Tina dun sa Philippine Maritime Zones Act. Obviously, China is opposing the said bill, and they were claiming na it goes against the provisions of the international law, particularly yung sa UN and of course yung UNCLOS. And ang panawagan din po nila, tigilan na raw po yung any unilateral move ng bansa and instead focus on the bilateral relations with to work with China to settle the differences. Any thoughts po doon sa kanilang opposition sa bill?
Hindi naman sila boboto rito eh. I'm just joking, but that's yun ang kailangan natin, so regardless of their position, bakit naman tayo will be influenced by their position, what we need, what we should do. Ang China palaging gusto niya bilateral Ayaw natin bilateral kasi lugi tayo sa bilateral Kaya nga gusto natin multilateral. May mga yan ang palaging gusto ng China. Tayong dalawa lang mag-usap. Alam niyo naman a diplomatic table. Kung dalawa lang kayo nag-uusap, may pinag-uusapan kayo. Isa lang naman ang rule diyan. Kung sino may armas, yun naman nanalo. No, ayun na may armas. Kaya ayaw natin nun. Kaya nga gusto natin multilateral and yun. Kaya yun ang we're moving towards that direction. Pero yung sinasabi ng China, this is our country. No, this is our country. This is what we did, and we're going to do it for our country, not for China.
Congrats po.
Yep. In addition to that po, no, we agree. Who better to talk about this than the chairman of the Special Committee in West Philippine Sea? But on our part, tama naming sinabi, they may express their sentiment, but at the end of the day, we will be legislating for our people as representatives of the people. And what we can say is that we will definitely not give up this right. I would opine that the notion that passing the law of the Maritime Zones law would be against international law is misplaced. Kami po, nakikita po namin, this is backed up by both domestic and international law. As a matter of fact, it is in accordance with UNCLOS. That is the reason why we're pushing forward for this bill. And in fact, in addition to that, as mentioned by Chairman Gonzales, we will also be pushing for the Arctic sea lanes. So both of these are just expressions already of provisions in UNCLOS. If we're talking about following UNCLOS, shouldn't we be following the arbitral ruling that was ruled by the multinational body precisely on UNCLOS? So I wouldn't say that passing the Maritime Zones Laws is against. In fact, it is supported by UNCLOS. It is supported by the arbitral ruling. And as a matter of fact, it is a domestic policy that we are pursuing as espoused in our Constitution on our national territory. So I guess ang masasabi po natin, noted. Pero I think we'll be pushing through with our own mandate as representatives of the people. Salamat.
Any additional pa? Okay na pa.
Briefly lang, I think maganda yung na-mention ni DML Boyet kanina yung dun sa bilateral na approach again. I think we've explored that before, and we know the predicament of doing the same thing. So yung water cannon is still there, yung mga paghaharang, pagbabangga, hindi na po. So I think it's time for us to really address this issue. Thank you.
Makikinig pa ba tayo sa kanila? Kahapon, dati ginigit-git lang. Kahapon, binangga na, binomba pa ng tubig. So, ano pa ba? And China is known for their wolf warrior diplomacy. So, talaga naman kahit anong sabihin nila, hindi naman sila makikipag-usap ng maayos. So, dapat para sa atin, tulad ng sinabi ng mga kasamahan ko, ipaglaban lang natin yung atin talaga. Maraming salamat po.
For my last question po, baka lang may thoughts kayo dun sa development sa Senate kasi it appeared na si Senator Robin Padilla nag-oppose lang doon sa contempt order against Pastor Apollo Kiboy. Thank you po.
Of course, we respect the position of the good senator, and we respect the Senate that they have their own proceedings, a committee. Although I would be pressed kasi I guess it's not exactly a counterpart po to the Senate hearing, but my bill here concerns the same issue. We're also pursuing. The House has already issued a subpoena. We respect their position, and we look forward kasi under the rules ng Senate, I believe he has 7 days to gather signatures to overrule the ruling. So it's a development that we are monitoring. It's development that we are very keen para malaman rin po namin yung pulso ng Senate on this issue. However, as regards to, I guess that's all that we could say on the Senate portion. But again, as we have been reiterating, itong pag-summon po kay Pastor Kibuloy is actually to afford him the right to air out his sides. Kasi po, it's hard to say po na parang one-sided yung Senate kasi puro ganito lang pinapresent nila. But on the other side naman, hindi rin nag-appear yung supposed star witness po in the allegations. So again, I guess we are monitoring that sentiment, but I would personally, this representation would prefer that he come forth, shed light on the matter, and to answer these allegations up front po.
Besides, of course, we respect the good senator. And it's quite unparliamentary for us to question his motive. Kung ano man ang rason niya, siya na nakakaalam na rason niya, and he's answerable to himself. Yun lang. Mahirap naman. We cannot. That's unparliamentary for us to pass on his the reason why he opposed the issuance of the warrant of arrest.
Thank you po.
Thank you. Joy Cantos from Filipino Star ngayon.
Good noon po. Sir, the President said he is still not inviting ICC to the Philippines, saying the administration that's not playing politics on the jurisdiction of sovereignty. Now, is there a legal basis for the ICC to insist that the bloody war on drugs on the previous administration fall under the category under hostes humani generis, or rather enemies of mankind? On a legally accepted principle on universal dictum and jurisdiction?
I wouldn't dare I wouldn't comment po no, on their interpretation of the international principle of law because personally, having filed the resolution on urging the cooperation of this national government with the ICC, we've been basing it solely on the Rome Statute itself. Kasi po, although we respect the opinion of the President as chief architect or foreign policy, as we've always mentioned, and he might be of the opinion that there is a conflict in jurisdiction. Based on my personal interpretation po ng Rome Statute, it was very clear that for any acts that were committed from a certain time up until the withdrawal, it would still be within their power. So I think the ICC would not have to go resort on the principle, very specifically underlying principle of international law when they could just rely on the Rome Statute po naman, no? So yun lang po.
Sir, but the point, it's not proven that the ex-president ordered the killing outside the bare ambit of the judicial system. In most cases, on the drug war, the evidence is not present. It's corpus delicti. In that case, what are the legal parameters to punish the perpetrators up to the highest echelon? Kasi po, sa nakita kong liability, sir, I was on the Oplan Tokhang and Oplan Double Barrel. Hanggang dun sa mga pulis lang po yung napanis eh. Wala dun sa taas.
Well, you're questioning po now a matter of corpus delicti and that where there's no evidence. That would be a prejudgment na po, no, on the merits of whether or not there is evidence. And I think this is a question that's properly addressed to both our courts or, if for those that agree with me, that before the ICC. But for us to have a prejudgment that there is no evidence or corpus delicti that would actually link a certain personality to the case, that is not our position to decide po, siguro.
Okay. Sir, with regards to RBH 6 and RBH 7, the Senate is dilly-dallying on RBH 6, while the House is to Planglosian. On the Planglosian mood, you're very eager. Sir, pag pumasok na po ba yung foreign direct investment, would there be a limitation doon sa mga papasok na investment? Kasi po magkakaroon ng competition, mag-emerge yan between the local companies and the foreign companies. So magkakaroon po ba ng limitation po?
Are you referring to meron na tayong amendment? Mahirap pag-usapan yan dahil hintayin muna natin kung ma-amend, ano? And then kung ma-amend, saka natin pag-uusapan yan. That will be addressed to if the amendment will be approved in the plebiscite be called by the COMELEC. Then pag nagkaroon na ng attempt on the part of the Congress to make a law, then doon na maitatanong yung tanong mo na yan. Until such time, medyo mag-speculative na yan.
Thank you. Big Sumintak from Net25.
Kay Congressman Enverga, just a clarification and follow-up regarding the motu proprio investigation tomorrow. Kabilang ba doon sa agenda yung pag-review sa charter ng NFA? Kasi mukhang doon yata nakita yung problema kaya sila nakagawa ng ganong aksyon na binenta nila yung stock ng bigas na kahit na walang bidding.
Thank you, sir. Actually, this is again in aid of legislation. So, syempre, yung ating hinahangad dito is malaman nga po kung ano pa ba ang nagiging function ng NFA? Ano ba kulang? O ano ba, are they still relevant to the times? Is it enough na bigyan sila ng power? So again, these are some of the questions that will be answered through this inquiry. So marami po tayong discovery and tamang-tama po kasi dahil nasasabay po ito dun sa mandatory review ng rice tarification law. So much learnings from this one that can contribute to the soon to be reviewed RTL. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. For today's last question. Sige, sir. Go ahead, sir. Yeah. Sige lang, sir.
Baka lang malimutan ko. Is si Isa still here? Oo.
Nasa kabila lang yun, sir.
Sige. Anyway, for the information of everyone, we, as of, I think, Monday, we had already spoken to our counterparts, ano? So we will be setting a date in the coming weeks. They were asking for next week, ano, to at least initially discuss, ano, yung pre-BICAM or pre-BICAM dun sa disagreeing provision. So we'll just set a date. So there's promise, ano, dun sa passage ng Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act.
Thank you, sir. For today's last question, may call on Annalisa Mirano from Bombo Radio.
Kongs, good morning. Reaction lang po sa inyo. The Philippines kasi has signed the second protocol to the ASEAN, Australia, New Zealand Free Trade Agreement na sa Melbourne po yan. So ano po yung maaasahan natin dyan sa paglagda po ng Pilipinas dito sa Free Trade Agreement? Thank you.
Siguro po, ma'am, no, personal opinion lang. We're not experts on. Perhaps one of our resident economic congresswomen would be better poised to answer that. But I think it would only, in relation to what we're discussing here with RBH 7, it only supports the fact po, no, na although there were opposing opinions na wala na daw po yung trend of globalization, nagko-close in na, dapat protectionist na po yung stance natin. This only betrays it because this is not a unilateral thing. Hindi po yung Pilipinas na nagsasabi, open up na tayo. This is Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, together with ASEAN. So I would say that there is still a trend towards globalization and it just serves as proof, evidence that perhaps we are on the right track and that we should step up to that challenge. Yun na po.
Briefly lang, I know there's much to gain also on the aspect of agriculture trade and of course technology trade. We were invited, I think, about 2 years ago, to Australia. So marami silang technology. We are working with ACR. It is part of their foreign affairs department na kung saan marami po silang mga technology gustong dalhin dito. And in fact, they have started already funding some of the good programs here. So I look forward to that. Magandang perspective for the agricultural sector. Thank you.
Thank you. To our guests, if you have any closing remarks to share, feel free. Closing remarks, sir.
To go back, kaya
Okay, sir.
kaya ako kumakaway na kay Raya. Thank you again for the invitation.
Maraming
Thank you
salamat
sa
po.
idol.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.